I see we have someone already in. We're getting ready about to start here. Just doing a little setup. Make sure I look okay. Boom, that's good. All right. Let me see here. Welcome to those that are already here. If you're online, appreciate you stopping by. We're going to start here in just a second. I just sent out my notification here. Again, welcome everyone here. I'm just taking a second to set up, though. Please bear with me. Again, welcome to those that are already here. Boom, we got a few people already watching. So, hey, what's going on? Dallas, Texas, Quick This Geek, Quiz This Greek, I think it's it. Lisa Fowler, St. Louis, Hakeem Allen in Wisconsin, Jacquees in Houston. I'm assuming you all can hear me. Just please confirm that you can hear me in the chat room. While I continue to set up here, we'll just be another couple of minutes and we'll get going. Good, boom, there we go. Winston, Solomon in DC, Sharice in MD. Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what's up. Thanks everyone for coming out. If you want some people to join, just simply text them, have them to go to FLIPPINAR.com, and they could just tap the button that says YouTube live or now live, and they'll have an opportunity to join. So it's going on Sharice Smalls. But again, we're about to start here. Just getting all systems in play. If you're watching this after the replay of this, you just probably be able to fast forward probably about 5 minutes to get into the actual Flippinar, unless you just want to see this part of it or whatever. So, but that's cool. Okay, boom, there we go. All right, I just need to be able to see my live chat. So I got my iPad up here, so we're ready to go. I've sent out my text message, and we'll be ready to rock and roll here in just a second. Again, what's going on, Mark? Appreciate everyone that's shown up so far. Hopefully the people that were used to any meeting have made it over here. Yeah. There we go. All right, so gonna get ready to go into record mode here, and we will get going. And I'm gonna share my screen first. Okay. So I assume you all can see my screen. If you can just acknowledge that you can. I need to stop that first. Let me start recording. And so now I'll share my screen. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to tonight's Flippinar. Appreciate everyone that's made it here so far. Tonight's topic, best areas to start wholesaling houses. Most people, when you start out, probably don't know where to start within your particular market. This particular Flippinar is going to focus on just that. Now, understand that each market is different. Each market is different, all right? Each of you all will have different resources that you can put into it. Everyone's going to be trained differently, and how they retain that information is going to be different. Also, the speed or how soon they move into action is going to be different. So all of that factors in to when you choose an area and how you view it. So don't take this as the gospel. Take it and use it to fit what you're doing. I just want to make that very, very clear. And I'll probably repeat this whenever I get into this part of the Flippinar. So again, best areas to start wholesaling houses. Now, what I'll do is that I'll set up an option where there'll be what I call the flip cut, where we just condense everything. Some of you all are familiar with my Flippinars, and that process is until I build up to the actual topic and the question and answer period. So, but just wanted to make sure you understood that. So tonight's topic, best areas to start wholesaling houses. Again, welcome everyone to this particular Flippinar. It's your first time, welcome. If you're returning, welcome again. All right, so let's get into it. Just to get out of the way, the disclaimer, most people understand this. If you don't do anything, you're not going to make any money. So you're not going to make $10,000 a month or $1 a month if you don't do anything. So I have to just say that for just the basics of it. If you haven't already, probably if you're here, you're already subscribed. If you're not, you need to subscribe to my channel, but make sure you turn on the notifications. Whenever you do that, you will be notified whenever I upload new videos and when I go live on YouTube. Okay, and you can also obviously take advantage of the 200 plus videos that I have, video tutorials that I have free that anyone can take advantage of and do deals. One of the most recent videos I did was with Chris out in California. He just a YouTube subscriber of mine, and took the information, ran with it, and made $21,500 on his first deal. So, nothing prevents you from doing the same. Obviously, I have the coaching and training that I offer to those that, want that type of guidance or feel they need that type of guidance. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. You see the handles here, flipman.net, and at the Flipman on Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel here that you're on. If you want a free copy of the contract that I've used for more than 14 years, please text the word contract to the number 313131. That's contract to 313131. Do not text me, text 313131. Just those 6 numbers, no 6 numbers, no area code is needed, and the word contract. People want it, I'll deliver. People want it, I'll deliver. If you want me to come to your city to train you, just call or text me about training. You see the phone number here. I pick that up. I answer text messages. So that is an option beyond just the online online course with coaching. All right. If you want to get into commercial real estate, I do offer that at flippthisbuilding.com. Low competition. You can literally do it sitting at your laptop or PC. You can access the entire country. There's a sea of opportunity. No cash or credit really needed. And obviously big fat paydays. That's flippthisbuilding.com. All right. Again, if you're returning or if you've never heard of me before, my goal here tonight is to introduce you to the method of wholesaling houses, which, just to give you an actual definition, wholesaling houses is a form of flipping houses, except the time frame is much shorter and no repairs are made to the house before the property is purchased by a buyer, is what I mean. A wholesaler enters a purchase and sales agreement with the seller and then assigns the contract to a cash buyer for a hefty assignment fee. Here's an example. If you have a house that in excellent condition, even though this house here looks like it needs repairs, nothing else landscaping. If you have a house that needs, that's worth $100,000 in excellent condition, meaning that's what it would appraise for in excellent condition. But for whatever reason, you can get it under contract for $30,000 with the seller. It may be a tired landlord, it may be a relocation, maybe an inherited property. There are a number of reasons that the motivation could be. There could need too many repairs, back taxes, medical bills. It could be any number of reasons. Okay, you get it on the contract with the seller for $30,000. You market, advertise the property to your cash buyers, even if you don't have any, but if you market and advertise it for $45,000. A buyer steps forward and say, hey, I can't do 45, will you accept $41,000? You say yes to that. So whenever you go to the closing table, the seller will get their $30,000 and you get the difference, which is $11,000 is your fee. That is a wholesale transaction. Obviously, it's a little bit more detailed than that, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. Is this something that you should be doing? Well, I have 2 videos of students. One, as I mentioned before, the California student. Well, he's actually not a student. He's a YouTube subscriber, but he made $21,500 on his first deal with only a $10 earnest money deposit in California, where everybody says the real estate is too high. It's not like where you are in Birmingham. Tyrone can get $5,000 or $10,000 houses. And as I've said over and over again, it's all relative, because obviously if houses go for X number, that means people can't afford them. The market commands a number, and it is what it can bear. All right, so that's irrelevant. So I put this up here in the form of return on investment because it's a ridiculous amount of money for what he actually spent and what he actually made. That's what's so beautiful about wholesaling. You see the percentage here as far as return on investment, over 200,000% as far as his return on investment. People wouldn't believe it if you told them they don't know anything about wholesaling. I had a Baltimore student. He actually split $32,000 with someone that bought a buyer to the table and only put $1 up. Excuse me. Only put $1 up as far as earnest money, and the return on investment was over 3,000,000%. Now, people, you can get into flipping if you have the resources. And when I mean flipping, it means you buy, fix, and sell to a family that wants to live in the house. That is an actual option. But I always recommend to people, if you have the resource, still do wholesaling, because it teaches you, you learn the business and you make money. You're allowed to make mistakes where it won't put you out of business. But both you can make money. It's just my opinion on it. So is this something you should be doing? I say yes. So how did I get started doing this? Well, I'm an entrepreneur first. Real estate is just one of the couple ways I've ever been able to make any serious money. I'm not one of these that started when I was 8, 9 years old and selling lemonade or cutting people's grass or whatever. I consider myself a late bloomer, because the switch didn't go on for me until my early 20s. When I was in college, had the brilliant idea I would take student loan money and start a car dealership and become a millionaire. Didn't happen. Actually got a dealer's license. Don't even know how I found out how to do that. No, I'm not sure what we did before the internet, as I mentioned before. And started going to actual dealer auctions. The problem is I'm not mechanically inclined. And if you're not, or don't have someone with you that is, and my late father is, he just wasn't in my life at that point, but you know, anyway, that's another story for another day. But anyway, you're going to get your hat handed to you out there, because they make those cars. It could be a 10-year-old car and it will look brand new off the showroom, but it may be a flat out piece of junk. And you won't know that if you're not, as I said, mechanically inclined. You won't know that until you drive off maybe 20 or 30, well, probably even 10 miles from the actual location, even though they have a actual testing runway on the property at the auction. But that's not far enough for you to tell if a car is in good condition or not. So long story short, I lost money and I was out of that business. Next business I got into while I was about to get out of college was a mobile car wash. 1995, I went to Black Beach Weekend in Daytona. One of my brother's friends met us there from Orlando. He had been doing it a couple of years and had made 6 figures doing a mobile car wash. So, hey, I couldn't wait till I got back to Birmingham where I could do the same thing. Bought a $900 baby blue passenger van where the seats were taken out, a 100-gallon water tank and a pressure washer, along with a sign to promote my biz. While I was on location, I was in business. Boom, just like that. So started showing up at barbershops, hair salons, places of employment of people that I knew, and was making money. The spring and summer were great, part of the fall, but once it got a little cooler in October, I was out of business. You know, cold water and 60-degree or 50-degree or 40-degree temperature doesn't mix with me. Some of you all probably are laughing in the Northeast and the Midwest, but hey, that's cold for us, you know, especially when you have water splashing on. So I was out of that business. So I had to be real with myself. Plugging along for the next few years, a few multi-level marketing things, and that's not for me. Not saying you can't make money with those. I can't make money with it. And so push forward to 2002, October. Friend of mine and his now wife were going to school to become real estate agents. And the guy that normally taught the class wasn't there. And the guy that replaced him, that substituted for him, didn't talk about being a real estate agent, but he talked about investing in real estate and creative ways of investing in real estate without using your own cash or credit. So my friend told me about some of the things that the guy was talking about in the class, and it struck my interest, but I didn't move on it at that time. So fast forward to December around Christmas, matter of fact, 2 days after Christmas, and 2 days after Christmas, I was at my mom's house, up early, waiting on her to prepare breakfast, and I caught one of Carlton Sheets' programs on no money down course or whatever, and I had seen them before, as most of us have. You know, they don't tell you anything about it. And you'll see testimonies, people say, I made this much money. They really don't tell you anything. So I wanted to watch it from beginning to end, only because my friend had struck my interest. So I went up the dial, found it, and watched it from the beginning. And again, it didn't tell me anything, but it was like, I guess, an epiphany, as they say. And I thought to myself at that time, he can't be lying about all of this. So I waited till I got back to Birmingham to go online. My mom didn't have internet back then. And I did a search. Does Carlton, on this entrepreneur message board that I used to frequent, I posted a message. Does Carlton Sheets program really work? And one person replied, yes, it does, but Ron LeGrand's course is better. So I did a search for his course. For his site, course, whatever. Found his website, and it was $1,500. At that time, took me a little bit more than a month to make that. A month to make that. I make a little more than that, but I was 80%, 80+% of what I was bringing in on a monthly basis. So on the site, they had a condensed version of it for $69.99, $80 with shipping. I ordered that. It was in cassette tape form, so we know how long ago that was. And all it was a teaser to let me know, hey, this is something that I can probably do. So I made up in my mind, if I had to save the money, that I would, if I had to get a second job to save the money, I would go and do that. So a couple of days later, I thought about eBay, and I did a search on his name. And so there were a couple of auctions running. I bid it on an auction, lost the auction, and the guy that was running the auction, and you could do this back then at eBay, they could contact a bidder. The seller could contact a bidder, and he offered to send me a bootleg or burnt version of the copy. Most of you all know what bootleg means. So we agreed on $400, which still was a sacrifice, but I had to have that course. I had to have it. I was confident that it was going to change my life financially. And I was right. At my current age, I still haven't I haven't had a better financial investment than that $400, because the amount of money I've made just from springboarding from that, I can't even tell you. It's a lot. But especially for someone that graduated college and you thought you were killing it, you were making 40 plus a year, which I was at the time of all this happening. So I got a long way from that. So I'm blessed to do that. But so I invested in that. So I got the course, and it was information overload. You're talking about someone going from 0 to 100, basically from I don't know what to be an example, from owning a house in in a rural area in Alabama to owning the Superdome, basically, as far as the wealth of information that I learned, from wholesaling houses to lease options to retailing, which is flipping, buy, sell, fix, from subject to, I think he had a module there called for sale by owner or whatever. And I was just blown away. It took me about 3 weeks to go through all the information, because I still had a full-time job and I was eating and sleeping it, because I went from not knowing anything. So some of the stuff I wasn't familiar with. So that was a learning curve there, because I didn't know anything about real estate. So if I didn't get anything out of it, I was on information overload, but I am an action taker. Wholesaling attracted me, and somewhat of lease options. And the other thing that attracted me about what I learned was bandit signs, because I didn't have to reach out to people. If I did an effective job of marketing, people would contact me. I'm an introvert. I know it doesn't seem like it. This is a hobby, what you're seeing me doing right now online. I do deals for a living. This is just something that is morphed into where I could actually make a little money off the coaching and all this stuff, but I do deals for a living. But my point is that if I didn't have to reach out to people, which I do a little of that, and that's probably one of my negatives as far as me not probably being for as long as I should be, because that's a lot of money I probably leave on the table. But I'm good, you know. So on being able to market and getting results back, you know, to live a decent life or whatever, but and those I care about. So with that being said, my point is that bandit signs allow me, just those, not, you know, there are other ways to do it, but bandit signs allowed me to do the business, because if I had to reach out to people, I probably would have never done first deal unless it would just been some luck or something. So people calling me, I'm in control of the situation from the beginning because they really want something from me. They want me to buy their house. So anyway, so ordered some bandit signs, overspent for them, 50 bandit signs, spent $250 on them, picked them up on a Friday, started putting them out on a Sunday morning. That Monday, the very first 2 calls were deals. One of them was a lease option opportunity and the other one was a wholesale opportunity. With the lease option opportunity, it basically blew up in my face, but here's the story. If you haven't heard it before, you have, just hold your horses. Seller called me, his mom left him a house. The house still had a mortgage in it. He didn't live in it. He had a mortgage on the house that he lived in. So he was looking for relief. He was behind a payment, I think. So the house didn't have enough equity in it and needed some minor repairs, but it just wasn't enough equity in it for it to be a wholesale deal. I did at least understand that. So I explained the process of a lease option. I was going to take over the payments. And the property will be paid off by a tenant buyer that I would place within 1 to 3 years. I would make my money off adding a couple $100 on top of the lease pay, on top of the mortgage payment, and I will receive a non-refundable down payment from the tenant buyer. I explained that to him. All right, and so he understood it. Okay, I had to preface that he understood the process. Advertised the property. Lady stepped forward, said that she wanted the house, sitting in a old Charlie's on Parkway East. I was calling it Center Point Parkway, but it's Parkway East here in Birmingham. It used to be, it's not there anymore. Mexican restaurant is there now, I think. Gave me 50 $100 bills, $5,000 in my hand, sitting in that restaurant, signed an agreement. That was the most money I had in my hand that wasn't related to a tax return, which that is this season now. So I hadn't gotten those in a long time. But anyway, 50 $100 bills. I was just blown away. It just wasn't real. I was afraid to spend the money, even though I spent a little of it. So I had a friend of mine that I worked with. I was still working at Bell South, which is now AT&T. He did mortgages on the side, and the seller of the property wanted to refi the property. He had mentioned it to me that, you know, if I knew anyone. So I was just trying to create a win-win for everyone. The other thing is that the house needed minor repairs, and the owner of the property was a handyman also. So the lady wanted to do a few things before she moved in. So I thought I would hook them up. So that was a win-win there. Okay, my friend mentioned to the seller that I had already found a tenant buyer and the lady had already given me $5,000. I'm assuming he was, you know, struggling financially, and he was hot. He felt I should have given him half, if not all, of that $5,000. So when he was supposed to meet the lady, the tenant buyer, at the house to discuss the repairs, he came over there in a rage, told her to get off his property. He was going to contact the police. Tyrone did not own this property. The lady left, called me crying because she had thought she had been scammed. Told her, where are you now? I will meet you with your $5,000. I had already spent $700 of it. That time I wasn't making any money. I'm not sure how I came up with it, but I did. Met the lady, gave her $5,000, and boom, he and I got into a heated argument. The last thing he told me after I insulted him, because I found out he was a minister, and I said something insulting about him leading a flock and him being a bum or something to that nature. He told me in so many words, if I ever see you again, it won't be pretty. So boom. All right, so move on to the wholesale deal. My actual first deal, instead of that deal that blew up in my face, it was 2 sisters. Mom passed. As a lot of people, we're not going to sell mom's house. We have too many memories here. So I had the great idea, we'll rent out to family members or whoever. Rented out to some family members. Obviously, family members will start to count your pockets. So they didn't pay them, tear up the house, went through that a few times, and they were motivated to sell. That's why I talk about landlords a lot. They were motivated landlords ready to sell. Contacted me, we agreed on $20,000. I really wasn't sure if that was a deal or not. I was still green in the game. I wasn't familiar with ARVs and all that stuff. But I thought it was worth quite a bit more than $20,000, if nothing else. And so, anyway, I advertised the property in the newspaper, which is not an effective way to do that now because newspapers are pretty much dead. And the lady, a realtor called me. I advertised it at $25,000, told me they would give me that $25,000. And I explained to him what position I was in, a wholesale position. So the realtor said, I'll bring my buyer to the table. He buys in that area, but I want half of that. Half of that $5,000, you were going to make the difference of $25,000 to $20,000. Agreeing to the game at $2,500 is a lot of money to me. I accepted that. And so I met those guys in a shopping center parking lot. As a matter of fact, the Summit here in Birmingham gave me $500 earnest money, and we signed the contract. We closed it in 10 days later. And the sellers were so happy for me. That's why I tell people it's rare. I've had it to happen once out of a lot of deals, and we still close it. Sellers do not care. They're talking about, well, I don't want them to see how much I made. I want to see the buyer. On closing day, everybody's happy. The closing attorney or title company is happy. The seller's happy. The buyer's happy. And definitely you are happy. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's nothing to worry about. It's nothing to worry. It's so rare. Anything can happen, but it's so rare. So that was my actual first deal. I'm no smarter than you are. Grew up in a town less than 1,000 people until I was 18 years old. In Bama, the only difference that it may be that I take action. And what I discovered when I was introduced to wholesaling, that we all think the hard way when you start talking about real estate. You think you need tons of money to start. That always kept me from even thinking about real estate. I thought you had to have a lot of money to buy, because you're talking about, several $1,000s, some hundreds of $1,000s, and obviously in the millions, depending on what you're talking about. So a lot of people think they need a real estate license, which I'm going to probably do a video on that pretty soon, which I have one, but I'm trying to do some updated stuff here to just refresh or whatever. And plus I get the question all the time, so I guess they're missing the video. So wasting your time thinking you need a license. I'm not saying get one. I'm not saying not to get one, but I'm saying you don't need one. So you take that however you want. I don't have one, really have never even considered it. Waiting till you have everything figured out. There's a lot of analytical people out there. And I'm gonna say this, and maybe my friend won't ever see this, but it's no big deal. He and I, we know what's up, he's my boy. But the guy that I mentioned earlier, when he and his now wife, I felt obligated. I gave him the course that I had, and he listened to it, and he tried to do it. But he never. He's more measured in his movements when it comes to stuff like that. Whereas I'm not. Not saying you can't do this business if you are analytical. You need to think. You need to figure everything out, but. That just holds you back. This is not brain surgery. This is not brain surgery. It's a very simple process. It's a very simple process. And now I'm not going to say it's easy, even though some deals are easy, but I won't convey that it's easy, but it's as simple as it sounds. But my point is, that's 14 years ago. He still hasn't done a deal. Not that he's been trying all the time, but I'm just saying that he gave up really early in the game, and he saw me making money and my lifestyle changing, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. So everything ain't for everybody, I guess. So, but anyway, and then some people are book readers, which is fine. I don't know, some people making vouch for this out there, but from just people that talk to me, there are not a lot of books out there that give you the full shebang on any of this stuff. And normally it's an upsell. So if anyone knows of a good books, you can post it. I don't care. But I'm not a reader, so that's why you never see any of my information in that format. I'm just someone, if you sit down and tell me how to do it, I can do it. It's just it. I'll do my own additional research. You may never even hear from me again, but that's just me. Everybody's not going to retain information the same. So saying taking pointless business classes, that's me also. That's why all this stuff here, because went through all of this. Except the real estate license. But taking pointless business classes. Now I went to college, wouldn't give anything for the people I met, the experiences I had, and the mistakes I made as a human being to grow up as a man. I wouldn't give anything for, but for what I learned to be able to produce income. Now, part of that was the major that you choose, but I more so went to college because my brother introduced it to me as a teenager, and I just thought it was a great place to go meet women. That's basically why I went to college. All right, once you get there, it could be in what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking. Intoxicating. I think that's what I'm not sure what I'm saying, but I'm saying I just like that lifestyle. So what I did to make sure that I stayed in college, a lot of people, they'll go their first year and live in the dorms, and then they'll move off campus. And I tried to tell my niece this when she went off to college, and it happened to just like it. Not saying it's just going to happen to everybody, but they'll stay in the dorm and then they'll move off campus. What you don't know is, unless you got parents that are going to pay all your bills, once you move off campus, now you got to pay a light bill. Now you got to have furniture, this, that, boom, boom. You got to add a bill. So now, if you like me that had to work, now you're working to pay all those bills. So I actually got put out of school because of I basically flunked out, and they took my financial aid because I needed it. And I promised God, if you help me get back into school, I will not move out of the dorms until I'm finished. So if I'm in the dorms, you have to be in school. Because if you're off campus, you maybe say, hey, I'm not going to go this semester. We were on quarters, but back then when I was going to school. But so also, I'm not going to go this semester before, one turns into 2, 3, So, but that's just me. So I forced myself to graduate. And the reason I did that, it wasn't that I thought I was going to better myself, because I already had my entrepreneur bug at that point. If I'd have been introduced to real estate and had the success I had when I started, and I guess there's a time and season for everything, I probably wouldn't have succeeded back then. I don't know, but I wouldn't have probably finished. But it was more important for me to put a smile on my mom's face than to me actually get a degree for the betterment of so-called my life or whatever financially. So I don't know why I got off on that, but anyway, just sharing a little something about me. But anyway, so going to seminars, and speaking of that, I was talking to a young lady earlier this evening. She is dying to help me to put something together in Atlanta as far as a seminar. And I told her I've never done that because I really don't have an interest in trying to put that together. Because I do this as a hobby. Now, I like money, don't get me wrong, just the numbers right or whatever. And obviously you all know how I go about it. I give away so much information. It'll be different than, even if I did something like that, it'll be different than anything you experienced before or whatever. But she convinced me. So that may be something that I may have to offer here pretty soon. I just wanted to mention that may have to offer pretty soon. It has to be right and fit into how I've always done things, for whatever little audience. So I appreciate everyone that follows me. So that may be available. And if it goes well in Atlanta, then I may well go to different cities or whatever that I think people will be interested in what I have to say live. So, but again, going to seminars, which even after I was doing deals, I was still going to seminars. And what I was looking for, not really to learn anything as far as how to do a deal, but how to find more deals. And I found out those guys were no smarter than I was. That's what I did. They only give you so much information. Then they hit you with the hammer. Hey, we was for $8,500 or $15,000, boom, we'll do this, but constant upsell. So not to hate on them, I'm just it is what it is. You all can vouch for that. You've been to enough of them, I'm sure. So then information overload. A lot of people can relate to that information overload, which will cause them not to do anything. I was talking to a lady today, and it's just all about action. Sounded like she knew as much as I did, but it's all about action. So and taking it. So we're going to go ahead and get into why you're here. You heard enough about me, so I'm going to explain this particular process. Again, best areas to start wholesaling houses. As I mentioned earlier, this is not the end all. This is only a foundation that you will use to fit you, your market, your situation, and so on. Again, everyone is not going to move at the same pace. Everyone doesn't have the same resources to put into it. Your training will be different as far as whether you got your knowledge from, how you understand that training. All of that will factor in on pretty much anything that I tell you. Those are going to be key factors. So this is not the end all, but it should give you a good foundation to figure out the best areas to start wholesaling houses in your market. That is the goal of this particular Flippinar tonight. Okay, so another thing is, I get a common question, can you guarantee I'm going to do a deal? If someone guarantees you're going to do a deal, you need to run. How can they guarantee you do a deal and you don't do anything on your end? You know what I'm saying? Not saying that you're not, but that's the only thing you can guarantee. If someone's presenting information, I don't care what it is, it doesn't have to be real estate. If the information is proven, which this is not like I invented, this is very old information that me and others have put out there and just taken action on it. I'm assuming they have, I know I have, and applied it. And then the other thing is, I know with me, the other thing I guarantee I'm gonna make myself available. I answer the phone 7 days a week. Obviously, I have a little life. Obviously, I have a little business that I run, but I'm not hard to reach, especially if you're a student. So everything else is left on the individual. So how can someone guarantee you're going to do a deal? That's just my soapbox message for that before we get into this. So best areas to start wholesaling houses. Best areas to start wholesaling houses. All right, as I mentioned, your situation, that's going to be key in whatever phase of this biz that you're going to put into motion. All right, your time. So obviously, if you have a full-time job, there's going to need to be some time management there, period, as I did. Now, I think I was fortunate because I actually had a job where I had an option to work a split shift and no one wanted to work it. So I could always get them. They had a few every day. And what a split shift was, and I was in a call center taking calls, answering calls on people wanted to make arrangements on the actual phone bill. That's what I did at Bell South. Bell South, this is Ty, how may I help you? Yeah, can I make an arrangement on my bill? That wasn't me. That's what I did there. All right, so you see, I'm no Einstein. That's the job I had before I got into this. So I worked my normal shift was from 7 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and come back at 3. So that 3.5 hour, 3.5 hour window, I could get a few things done. And then it would be from 3 to 6 and I would be off at 6 p.m. Now, when the time changes and you have longer daylight hours, then you can still get out and maybe go look at a property or two after that. So I was able to manage my time well that way. And then even when I started making money. This is what I used to do. We could switch schedules, right? So I used to pay people, $100 to change scheduling so I could go to a closing or something, or be off a certain day so I could go to a closing. I would send out a email blast throughout the office, and people would just run to my desk, because they wanted the $100 or whatever. You had the 4 or 5 people that were offering. I do that. So it was, so that was only after I started making some money out of it, but it didn't take much because, you start doing deals and you doubling your income. It didn't take long. All right. So next is going to be your situation is your resources. And I'm building up to the best area to start to wholesaling houses, but your resources, what are you going to have financially to put into it? Now, this is not a business where it's taxing as far as expenses, because it's going to all boil down to marketing. It's really the only thing you'll ever really spend money on. And somebody actually posted a message earlier today on one of my videos who has $50. I'm sorry, who has money to spend? Because I mentioned in the video that I put out, the last video I put out before this Flippinar, I mentioned one of the, what was the title of that video? I don't even remember. Dang, it was just yesterday. What did I mention? About can you do it part-time? Yeah, that's the name of it. So so I guess my main question was, but I don't think that's the video he commented on, but I put out a video answering that. He's like, who has the money to put for 200 bandit signs, 50 bandit signs a week, and the gas money. And I hadn't answered him yet, but I hope he's on this right now. Then I only was giving that as an example. I understand everyone's situation is different, but we're only talking about a couple of $100 here for 200 bandit signs. That will last you an entire month. And even if you didn't do it every week, you could do 50 bandit signs every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks and stagger them out, but you're talking $200. Even when I wasn't doing this, I understood that I'm going to have to do something additional than what I'm already doing to come up with extra money to feed my business. There's going to have to be some sacrifices made somewhere. That's why I want to tell that guy. I hope he's on here watching this. All right. There's going to have to be some sacrifice. We're not talking about a lot of money. I understand, trust me. But I was listening to something the other day where a lot of small businesses say they can't find employment because people don't want to work for X number of dollars. But it's right now, I'm not beyond, if all this stuff falls apart, I'm not beyond going to McDonald's right now, because you just have to do what you have to do. And, that's just always been my mentality. You do what you have to do to make it, because opportunities exist. It's just sometimes people don't want to do what's available to them to get where they want to go. That's just my opinion on it. I don't know everything. That's just my opinion. I just know what I'm willing to do to try to better myself. To get that, you have to make sacrifices. It's just all the time, So, and I still do that now. Right now, familiarity with your market. Now that's huge. Now, if you're from a city, you grew up there all your life, in most cases, that's in your favor. Not a deal, because I didn't grow up in Birmingham, but I feel like I did, especially now. A lot of my friends have called me for directions because I'm all over the city all the time. If nothing, just, looking at houses, putting out bandit signs, which I still do myself. And I do it because, number one, it keeps me humble as far as for me. And also, I've never been satisfied when I paid people to do it. I just never been satisfied. I spent a few $1,000s trying to get people to do it. It ain't brain surgery, but they don't care because it sounds easier than what it is until you get out there and start doing it if you're trying to do it right. But familiarity with your market, that's huge. And that helps you to know the best areas to start once we get a little bit deeper into this. All right, now the size of your market. Now that's probably more important than anything to me. Now, obviously, I'm in a decent sized city. Think Metro, we're $1.2 million, $1.3 million, $1.4 million, something like that. Some cities just a few 100,000. Then you have cities less than that. So all of that has to be taken in consideration whenever you start talking about what you're going to have available, because it's just all a numbers game. Like a guy called me from Miami yesterday, and he was like, "You think I can do any deals down here? You know, people are like this or that." I say, man, and I go back to the same thing. Do people get divorced there? Yep. Do people die in Miami? Yep. Do you think you got an entire landlord there? Yep. You think people have medical bills they can't pay? Yep. Think they got kids going off to college, they can't afford it? Yep. I can go on and on. That exists in any market. So the only thing that matters to me, Miami is bigger than Birmingham as far as probably the metro or the greater Miami, South Florida area. That's the only thing that matters to me. You drop me down in there, I'm going to do deals. It's just that simple. I will figure it out. So the size of the market does matter. It does matter. You don't have to be in a city as large as Birmingham or Miami by no means, but that is a factor. So just have to put that out there. All right, now methods of leads. All right, we're going to start out with the paid ways with marketing and advertising, obviously banner signs, direct mail, social media, and the net. All of that will factor in on where you're going to market will determine where you're going to start. I mean, how you're going to market and find leads will determine on where you're going to start to market and to find leads. So if you don't have the resources to do banner signs, direct mail, social media, whatever, then the approach is going to probably be a little different, because you're going to have to spend a lot of time online, all your time online, finding deal or driving for dollars, which we'll get into. So here are the free ways. As I said, online, offline, for rent, for sale by owner, bird dogs. And what that simply means is that obviously online, Craigslist, Zillow, sites of that nature, offline, driving for dollars. And the two targets that you're looking for are tired landlords, as I mentioned before, but you're looking for those online for rent ads, whether it's on Craigslist or that section of Zillow, and you want to talk to the private owner itself. So then offline, you're going to drive for dollars, look for rent signs and for sale by owner signs, and then obviously you can hire a bird dog. Now, as far as the best areas to start in, if you're doing it all offline, I mean, you're doing it the free ways because you don't have resources for the paid ways. Now, the offline is probably be the easiest thing, because you will obviously have to spend some gas money, whether you're talking a few bucks or whatever. But you're looking for the activity at that point. So you're going to have to probably sometimes get outside of your comfort zone. And then sometimes you may be fortunate your comfort zone may be only place you need to really market with to get deals. So what I would look for is I'm going to be looking for areas where there appears to be either one or two things, either a lot of for rent signs, probably the first thing that I'm going to be looking for, which means there obviously some activity there with a lot of landlords. It may not be a great resale area, and a lot of times that's in the hood or quote unquote what they call the war zones or the neighborhoods you see on TV a lot. You'll see a lot of for rent signs, which means there's activity there, because one of the first things that I learned from that same guy that taught substituted for my homeboy and his now wife. He had a little class that he used to teach on Saturdays, and one of the first things he said starting the class was, every house is a step up for someone. Wherever you live right now, for some people that's going to be a Taj Mahal. For others, it ain't going to be good enough. I don't care who you are, right? So a lot of people will start target areas because either they want to live there, or I know I'll live there, or I'm already living there. I don't look at it like that. Checks been the same. 90% of the deals I've done over the year, that number keeps going down a little bit, but it's been in the areas you see on the news every night. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's my market or whatever. Now, I started to expand into the much better quote unquote areas. But again, so with the offline stuff, in those areas, you're going to see a lot of for rent problems. A lot of times, it's just not going to be a lot of reselling going on as far as at retail. You'll see a lot of resale going on in the investment side, of which is good for you. So those areas, if you see a lot for rent signs, those are going to be the areas you're going to target. Now, for sale by owners, that's going to be more so probably in the lower middle class and up. You'll see more of that. So if you see a lot of that activity versus just flat out realtor signs, because you're going to always see way more realtor signs, but those areas where you see it for sale by owners, you want to do a little bit more research on those also to see what type of activity. And what you can do is go to Zillow and do, you just put in the name of your city, and then it's going to pull up all the zip codes, put in the name of your city, and do just the for sale by owners, uncheck everything else, the condos, apartments and everything, just do for sale by owners and houses, and then you'll see that for sale by owners, you can see the most activity based on the zip code. So you're going to have to do your own tracking there. All right. So now once you get all of that information and you have a good idea, just pick one or two zip codes. Now, sometimes zip codes overlap in the sense of like there's a zip code here, 35212. You'll have houses that are $50,000, but you may have houses $250,000. Now, and that's just by crossing the railroad track. So some of those things you won't know unless you're from there. And so that's where the familiarity of your market comes in. So, and that's one of the issues with you trying to do virtual wholesaling. You'll see the comps that justify 250, but really you're on the wrong side of the track. Wrong side of the track, it is really 50,000. All right. So all right, so now you want to get into researching your market. Now, I sort of already got into that. Now, Zillow and Craigslist are going to probably be your best, and Realtor.com are probably going to be your best sources. All right. And the way you want to simply go about that, and it'll take a little time, is, well, let me back up. Let me back up one thing. Another thing that you can do is, and that you should do, the areas where you, even if you're not going to do banner signs, you're going to do direct mail or whatever. All right. Now, direct mail, you can target pretty much any of your market, but if you identify where guys are getting away with banner signs in your market, that's easy identification of where you can start. Okay. That's easy. That's the first thing you can always do. I should have said that from the top. But that's the first thing you're going to cause. That means that they're, number one, they're not wasting their time or money, and the signs are working. That's just the way it works. So now, again, you may have to get outside. You say, I don't see banner signs. Well, you're probably not going in areas that you're comfortable with. You're going to have to get outside your comfort zone. Now, and depending on the size of your city, it may take you a couple of weeks to figure that out by just zoning the city out and just driving. That's the only way you're going to know. And so, all right, but on into the online research. All right, so the first thing you do, just go with where you live, okay, and look at the activity as far as what the houses are going for on average, as far as I will say ARV, what they're going for in excellent condition, and then looking at the low on it. So you could go, because Zillow will allow you to go from low to high whenever you put the criteria in as far as zip code or whatever, and just start looking at how many of the houses are advertised at one price range versus once you get to the high of it. And so you can monitor that over a couple of weeks, and you'll see if there's some opportunity there, some opportunity there where houses are even being priced on Zillow that are a lot lower than what the high is. And to give you an example, it may be a $250,000 neighborhood. Just use that example. And when you do the low, but the low one may be 180, that's not low enough. That's going to probably be a little bit more difficult area. And anytime the higher the number in the area, the more houses you're going to probably have that's leveraged with mortgages. Now, but that's going to be all relative to your market. All right. Now with Craigslist, what I would do is, now Craigslist is a little bit more difficult, but it does have some filters in there that you can somewhat do the same thing. And you're just going to have to make great notes on it when you're doing your research with Craigslist. Remember, that is a place where a lot of wholesalers are going to place houses, which is a good thing because it's easy to identify their ads in a lot of time, because how an actual for sale by owner person will place an ad versus an actual wholesaler versus a realtor, which a realtor will identify themselves most of the time on their ads. Their ads are going to appear different. So look at the zip codes where the wholesalers are placing their what am I saying? What the zip codes that the wholesalers are pushing. And from there, once you come up with maybe about 5 to 10 zip codes, choose one. There's no rhyme or reason. Some of this is going to be just flat out testing. Choose one. All right. And depending on your resources, we're going to be doing this free, or you're going to use paid methods or a combination of both. Just choose one, maybe 2 zip codes, and start there, because some of it is just going to be just flat out testing. But that's the great thing about this business. You may spend a few $100s doing that over time, and you go at your own pace, do what you have to do to do that. The first deal that you do, you're going to be able to recoup your investment with profit. There are very few businesses that you can do your first transaction and you're profitable. All right. Now, again, best area to start wholesaling houses is not going to be the same for everybody because of many of the factors that I mentioned. But I'm just trying to give you a nuts and bolts or foundation where you can start to try and find an area to start in, because some of it just going to be flat out testing. But I'm just trying to give you a few identifiers or how I would go about it, of identifying an area where I want to start in. I don't even know why I chose the area I started. I just started putting out signs. I don't know what the rhyme or reason was. I just started putting them. I'm a lot more obviously educated now on it, but I just started putting out signs, and I was fortunate enough to boom, first 2 calls, bam, and I didn't even put out that many signs. So, all right. So again, as I mentioned, I've already gotten ahead of myself. The bandit signs, that's one of the things, as I said, I would look for where bandit signs are being placed. That's probably, those areas are gonna make the list as far as zip codes, or you may have a name of a particular community. Where I did my first deal was the area was called West. It's called West End. So you may identify an area by you just know. It's not a city itself. It's just a large area or neighborhood within your mark. Some people might say it's the east side or west side or whatever. So, all right. Now, as I mentioned, the for sale signs, where there's agent or FSBO, you want to make sure that, again, the FSBO is what I'm really looking for. But when you see a lot of agent signs, that means there's a lot of activity also. That's a very good thing. Now, as far as who I'll contact to be the FSBOs, but when you see a lot of agent signs in the area for sale, then that's going to be a good area. On the flip side of that, when you see a lot of for rent signs in the area, it may not be a lot of for sale signs, but that's a good thing. That's an area that you probably want to target, that zip code, or again, that name of that community. Another thing that you want to look for, if you see a lot of activity as far as rehabs, you see a lot of construction, that's easy to identify. Now, all those things are only going to happen from you just riding around and again, time management and just getting out there in your market and noticing where there's a lot of rehab going on. A lot of times the rehab area and the agent area are going to match up. So that's going to be definitely an area there. So to me, it's actually easier to identify the areas to start. Some people may disagree, but again, it's just a foundation to identify the areas to start offline versus online. Especially if you're not familiar with the area. It's easier to identify offline what area to start in than online, because you can actually see activity from bandit signs to realtor signs to for sale by owner to for rent signs to actual rehabs. So those are going to be the easier ways to identify where to start or not, in my opinion. Okay, so just to recap, again, your situation is going to be key, because everybody's not going to go into this the same. Your resources and time is going to be a factor. Your method of leads, whether it's online or offline, that's going to be a factor. And obviously researching your market, as I mentioned, offline methods are going to stick out to me immediately, because if I came to someone's city, that's you're going to be trained before I really even get there. And I want to get out there in the street, because that's the first thing I want to do is identify the area that I think that I would start first. Because basically I'm going to treat it as if I'm going to start doing business there, and I pass it on to you or whatever. But that's what I want to see, the activity, signs, rehab, stuff like that. It sticks out to me. I always notice that kind of stuff. So there we go. Best areas to start wholesaling houses. Now we're going to get into the question and answer period. But before we get into that, people want to know what type of money they can make, because you're here to change your situation, replace your actual job if you hate it, if you don't. I didn't hate my job. I just wanted more. But 3 to 5 deals will do that for you. And in order to accomplish that, the math is simple. 3 to 5, so you need to be talking to 3 to 5 sellers per day, whether you're using online, free methods or paid methods, offline or online, or a combination of those. I'm a marketer that happens to wholesale houses to make the money. That's the way I look at it. My goal when I wake up every day is how to continue to keep my phone ringing. If I know I'm doing that, I'm going to be making money. It's that simple. So how many deals do you need? So let's use just some simple numbers. 1 deal per month, averaging $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That'll vary from market to market, but I'm just going to use this as a conservative number. That works pretty much anywhere, and sometimes it's a lot higher. But averaging $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That's 12 deals in a year. That's $60,000 to $84,000 per year. Move up to 2 deals per month, averaging $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That's 24 deals in a year. That's $120,000 to $168,000 per year. 5 deals per month, $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That's 60 deals in a year. That's $300,000 to $420,000 a year. As I said before, now they know your name at the bank. People say they can't hear me, or you can hear me. Please let me know. But don't forget about the 200 plus videos. Subscribe to my channel. Flipman.net, turn on the notifications. You want a copy of the contract I used for the last 14 years, just text the word contract to 313131. Okay, good. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. You want actual proof of funds. If you're going to deal with real estate agents or brokers, realpof.com is where you need to go. And need private money, privatemoneylist.net. The name speaks for itself, privatemoneylist.net. So we'll get into the question and answer period. Let me get over here. Hold on, guys. All right. Okay. If you post a code question, you'll probably have to repost. I wasn't able to see those while I couldn't read them and go through my spiel at the same time. So you have questions, I'm happy to have got a deal that you want me to analyze. Be happy to do that also. So if you want to start to post your questions, we'll get to them. So what you got? What you got? Someone says, is it best to, Desiree says, is it best to do commercial first or regular real estate? Well, if you're doing houses, the checks are going to come a lot faster normally. Even maybe with some multifamily, they could come a lot faster because commercial, doing the single tenant that I focus on, vacant buildings, or if they're filled with a tenant, those could easily take 60 to 120 days, and that's if everything is going right. So just depends on what your goals are and how fast you want to get a check. All right, Capo. All right, Capo says, I have a seller that's not keeping his end of the contract. He won't give me keys so I can show potential buyers. What should I do? If they won't give you keys, you just have to meet them over there each time now. That's why it's important to video the property so you can show it to potential buyers through text or email. And so that eliminates them. They still want to see it, but at least they'll know what they're getting into, and you'll explain to them what's up. So you won't have to keep showing it and showing it and showing it or whatever. So maybe you only have to get the seller to go over and show it to you 2 or 3 times before you actually get a buyer. So, but that's not an issue. That's going to happen. Buyers are not always going to give you keys. You're just going to have to meet them over there when you have a buyer. I just tell them I have a partner that needs to meet me over there, or one of my private lenders, which that's basically what a cash buyer is, or contractors giving me bids. So, you know, you can tell them whatever on that, but those are the things that I use. All right, someone says, how many, Raheem says, how many letters or postcards do you recommend sending out weekly? Normally the answer to that is as many as you can afford. So whatever that is, you need to just be consistent with it. If you can only do it every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever that number is, roll with it, but really just whatever you can afford, because it's going to be a snowball effect when you start talking about direct mail. It may take a little time to get it going the way you should, but as many as you can afford, my man. Someone says, well, Erica says, contracts A, B, then B, C, isn't that 2 closings? Well, no, it should be just contract A and B. A seller contract, just as an example, 30,000, buyer contract for 41,000. It's just 2 contracts, and you get the difference of those contracts. All right, George says, when you write a contract, do you write to one for you and one for the seller? Yeah, basically that's what I do. You could do a carbon copy or whatever, but yeah, you want to give them a copy. Now, a lot of times I email people. It's rare I actually put a contract in someone's hand. I normally email the contracts to them. KYM says, do you recommend wholesaling for beginners? Most definitely. Whether you got $1 in the bank or $1 million, 450 credit score, 850. Wholesaling is low risk, and you can make money and learn the business. You know, in my opinion, it's the best place to start, and you can gravitate to other forms of real estate from there. Someone says, what's your favorite, Alexander says, what's your favorite type of list to target? Absentee, high equity, probate, or vacant? Well, I just target absentee, and normally all of those other 3 are incorporated in there. Now, in high equity now, I go about and I teach my students to go about it different. We equity form. We just don't blindly send out. You buy a smaller list and you look for equity. You know, it's just a process that you go through. But even if you blindly send out to an absentee, it's going to take care of all that, probate, vacants, all of that. landlords, divorce, all of that. Just choosing the market that you want to target. That's where I go about it now. You can be a little bit more specific, but I have a shotgun approach on that. Someone says, what phone system or voicemail would you recommend? I use Sideline and Google Voice. There are others out there, but I have a smartphone, iPhone. Most people have a smartphone, whether it's iPhone, Android, or whatever. And I use this app called Sideline along with Google Voice to generate numbers one-on-one and to manage where calls are coming from. Just try to keep up with some of my marketing. Oh, and I'm not giving away a free course. I'm just going to make that a surprise when I do that instead of giving it away every week or whatever. So if you're sticking around for that, I won't be giving one away tonight. But you never know. I may change my mind. Beyond the marketing, what is the spending needed for downstroke? All right, someone, Brian says, beyond the few $100s you would need for marketing, what is the standard amount needed for your downstroke? I guess he means down, earnest money deposit. Normally, I try to start with $10. Normally, that works for me. I'll go up to 100, but that's about it in most cases. Maurice says, I'm trying to get a deal from someone that passed. Who would have the ownership and how could I contact them? Well, Maurice, you got it. I'm assuming you just know this person has died and the property may be available. You're going to have to find out who the relatives are and try to reach them by mail or phone and see if they're interested in selling it. And from there, you can discover if the person had a will or not. If they didn't, hopefully you don't have to deal with one or two offspring, one of the kids, and you can put a deal together. But no, a lot of times those can get ugly and nothing can ever do if it's heir property because you can't get everyone to agree. But you got to find out relatives and see if they'd be interested in selling. That's your first objective. James says, if you're a beginner, where should you start? Always going to try to educate yourself, no matter if it's with my information, whether it's the free information I have or the paid. Educate yourself first. You need to sound like you know what you're talking about, even if you're not sure what you're talking about. You need to sound that way when you're dealing with sellers, and take action is more important than anything. Gwendolyn says, when I place a property under contract, am I to tell my cash buyer for how much I have it under contract with the seller? No, it will eventually come out, but when you're in the negotiations, no. They may flat out just ask you, and depending on how the conversation, I may tell them, it just depends or whatever. I can be transparent because I'm controlling the property for that time frame, so you have to sort of feel that out. She has a second question. The gentleman with whom I had a property under contract told his buyers how much he was paying for the property, and the buyer then said he wanted to pay much more. We lost the deal, and it was a deal. I'm assuming you had a partner, Gwendolyn, but you shouldn't allow one buyer to dictate whether you have a deal or not. A buyer's list is important, but I like to go in negotiating it if I didn't have a buyer's list or any buyers, because in reality you don't know if they'll buy it or not. They just say they buy in that area, and the timing may be wrong. So you should always go in and negotiate the best deal available, and let the market speak for you. But I'm assuming you're saying you depended on that buyer to close your deal and they didn't perform, but you should just try to find another buyer, if I'm understanding the situation correctly. Ready to buy my signs. Is there a contact person for purchase? I'm assuming you're referring That's K Davis. I'm assuming you're referring to Dirt Cheap Signs. You don't want to order online if you want to take advantage of the 5% discount that they offer anyone that I refer. You want to call them and ask for either Curtis or Christina and just let them know I referred you. DirtCheapSigns.com. You want to call them. You don't want to order online. Gwendolyn follow up. She says essentially we had the property on the contract for $42,000, and once his cash buyer found this out, he only wanted to pay $42,000 or what. Yeah, you just need to find another buyer. That's a clown. That's somebody you don't want to deal with, Glendon, period. You didn't want to even deal with him, period. He would have got to the clothing table or when he saw the HUD and he may have pulled out. So that's nobody you want to deal with. If the numbers work for him on what area you agreed above the 42, that should have been it. That's somebody I don't even want to deal with at all. Find another buyer. All right, Pamela says, got my first bandit signs today in the mail. What do you say if the authorities call? I told those guys not to put those signs out there. Where are they? We'll come take them down. I'll have them taken down. That's what you tell them. Just total cluelessness is the response that you should have. How many deals a month you performing? Carl asks. But generally, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which sometimes I don't because I focus on a lot of the commercial stuff. But if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, Carl, I like to do anywhere from 4 to 7 is my number if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. All right, Dingo, I think I'm pronouncing Dango, I guess that's what he's trying to say. Dango Unchained. This is Gino is his name, Gino from St. Louis. When driving for dollars, a lot of my vacant properties come back as foreclosed when I look them up. Can you do anything with them or just keep pushing? Keep pushing, man. Keep pushing. Someone says the video has stalled. Gwendolyn said it stalled, so hopefully that's not consistent. Anthony in Atlanta says, do you use hard money lenders? No, I don't. I have in the past, but as wholesaler, you don't need them. To wholesale, you don't. By the way, to the other question, I have 9 properties on the contract with 0 down to date. So he has 0 down on his properties. He has 9 on the contract. I hope you can move every one of those, Anthony. All right, Desiree says, my grandfather passed 20 years ago. My mom's still trying to get the property in her name, but the lawyer she's dealing with has disappeared. How do we go about getting the property in her name? All right, the first thing you want to do is contact the title company, right, and ask them, what do I need to do to get this in my name? Now, I'm assuming that title companies exist in your state, Desiree. That's what I would do, and they will give you the path on doing that. So that's what I would do. Contact title company, get them to run a title search. It's going to probably cost anywhere from $300 to maybe $500, depending on where you are. And they will tell you what's needed to get the title in your mom's name. It's that simple. Is the memorandum really needed, or is the contract enough to protect the deal? All right, Capo, yes, the contract is enough to protect your deal. I agree. All right, Shamish Michelle, what are some of the strategies you can use to build a strong buyers list? Allow your deals to build your list. I mean, just simple answer, Shamish, I think I'm saying that correctly. Find great deals, advertise those great deals, and the buyers will find you. It is not hard to give away money. Don't focus on buyers, focus on finding great deals, It is not hard to give away great money. And that simply means, and yeah, if you never heard this analogy, some of you all have, it's not a trick question. If you have a job and I have a job, and our job is to, your job is you have a sack full of money, or you have a sack with $50,000, and your job is to give away that $50,000 in one day. My job is on the other corner is an empty sack, and my job is to get enough people to give me enough money that will total $50,000. All right, who has the easier job? Obviously, you have the easier job because you can give $50,000 away to one person. Matter of fact, you could probably give them 45 and they'll give you 5 back, or whatever. Whereas mine, it may take me a year to come up with 50,000. Maybe take me 2 years if I'm out there on the corner, because I'm gonna be like a sheep out there just holding it out. And they're going, what is this fool doing? And so those are buyers that you're doing because you're giving away money. That's equity in houses. My job is dealing with sellers, trying to get them to give me equity to accumulate that 50,000. So you focus on the harder part of it. Find great deals. Buyers are easy. I don't like to use the word easy, but that's the only way I can explain it. Is your free contract good to start out? Yes, and continue with. I still use it. 14 years later, 14 plus years later. All right, Janari says, I have 41 houses just on driving for dollars. Do I need to still get a absentee list or just keep working with the direct mail with them? Well, yeah, you'll eventually probably find a deal that way. You'll eventually find a deal. If you have the money to spend on direct mail, I would encourage you to do it. It's a more efficient way of doing it than what you're doing right now. But yeah, but if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll eventually find a deal. All right, Gwendolyn says, the video stalled. I missed if I'm required to tell a cash buyer how much I have the property in the contract for. No, you're not. You know, you see what you do. You had on the contract for 42. I don't know what the ARV was on your property, but I would have probably been advertising it at 55. You know, so and that's what we're going to negotiate on, that 55. So I know I have a $13,000 spread there, so that's where I'm going to negotiate it. So to answer your question, no. Again, I don't even want to deal with a buyer that's tripping about how much money I want, you know, because it's supposed to be an ongoing relationship where I'm helping him make money, but I'm not doing it for free. So I don't even want to deal with him. It's just that simple. You gotta have that attitude, in my opinion. All right, Jamar said, do you do 3 to 5 deals a month? Yes. And I know you said before the mailing your way costs. Yes, it does. It's actually cheaper overall than the way that most people do it. And you did say that the website was envelopes.com, correct? Exactly. Typically, how many mailers do you send out to do two to three deals per month? If you're doing it, it just depends on how you're sending out your mailer, whether it's postcard, the yellow letters. The way I do it, is going to be a little different, but I'm gonna stick to what people used to. To do 2 to 3 deals a month, you're probably going to have to be sending out anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 easily, if not more. But that's still going to be on how the zip code that you're targeting and so on. There's several factors that go into that besides just sending out mailers. But 1,000 to 2,000 is going to be a minimum. Janari, Janari says he's watched one of my older videos, 7 years old. No, I don't do it that way anymore, Janari. It's totally different, totally different. Winston says, do you teach lease options in your course? No, I don't. I know how to do them, but it's not in the course. Pamela said, with all of the wholesalers in Birmingham, are you finding it harder to do deals? Not really. I just feel if I do what I'm supposed to do, it's just enough deals out there for everybody. That's a good thing in my opinion. Placed 4 banner signs last week, got a call back today, putting it on the contract tomorrow. Thanks, Todd. That's from Helen. Only 4 banner signs. You're very fortunate, Helen. You must did a great job of putting out signs. Jannar says, are those apartment buildings for sale? I don't have anything. Everything is off, is not available right now. Should have new stuff up within, before the month is out. Please, can you give the buyers list info one more time? I'm not sure what you're asking for, Maurice. Or if you're talking about privatemoneylist.net, if that's what you're referring to, privatemoneylist.net, or you're talking about focusing on building a buyers list. I'm not sure what you mean. I think I'm caught up on the questions here. Okay, guys, we've been an hour and a half right now, so I really appreciate everyone coming out to this Flippinar. We'll try to be back next week. Flippinar.com is where you can access it. Tell a friend, family member. But again, someone said, just call me B. I'm not sure what they mean. All right. But anyway, so I really appreciate everyone coming out. We're going to end this particular Flippinar for tonight, and hopefully we'll be back next week. Nothing happens. Thanks. And I'll see you all on the flip side.